tonight is, along with Brian, is talk about, we called it a year in review. It was last November that Hunton and Timmons came together to work with the Allegheny Highland Economic Development Corporation to produce a business plan for economic development in the region. That kickoff meeting was last November, so we thought this is a fitting time to look back at what has happened since that kickoff meeting a year ago. So I'm going to quickly go through this, and if there are questions, feel free at any time. So, as I said, it was about a year ago, well, it was a year ago, November, that we did the kickoff for the plan. And the plan was adopted after the turn of the year in 2021. That plan basically did these things. It was a review of all the existing economic development programs, resources, sites, initiatives, take a look at what the Allegheny Highlands had in place. Then we also took a look and reviewed competitors, those regions in the area that would directly compete for economic development opportunities. We took a look at the target industries. We tweaked that slightly. Those are the companies that this region is well suited to attract, and therefore companies are the types of companies that should be targeted for location or expansion here in Allegheny Highlands. We looked at marketing and branding. What was the messaging? What was the marketing strategy for the organization? And we made recommendations about how that might be improved. And then we also looked at the industrial sites. We reviewed them, looked at where they were, and made recommendations for how to make them better prepared for economic development. So that was completed probably about February, March last year, formally completed and approved. So one of the first steps we went through was to go out knowing we would need it for websites, for marketing, for branding, and for all the messaging that was going to come out of the plan. An extensive photography portfolio was developed. We had photographers come to the Allegheny Highlands and spend a couple of days going out and taking photographs, high quality photographs that could be expanded as big as you need, made as little as you wanted to, could be used for websites, social media, print advertising, whatever need there might be. Those photographs included tourism, recreation, quality of life, business and industry, scenic, photo opportunities, recreation, and those are incorporated into everything we did, but they're also available for future needs. So when there are events, when there's advertising, when there's any kind of promotion that's needed, that portfolio is out there. Photographs are filed and tucked away under topics and headings, so they're available now. We worked on a rebranding initiative. We took a look at the old brand, and we looked at the other brands and logos, I should say logo in this case, other logos for organizations locally and regionally. And we looked at the way that logo appeared to people who may be seeking economic development here in the Allegheny Highlands. Part of my work at Hunton, I'm a site selector as well, so I work with companies throughout, really globally. We have global offices, so we work with companies to relocate around the world. And that first impression, that initial look at a website or look at a letter or some kind of marketing piece that comes across the table, the logo is important. It says a lot. It can look dated in some cases. It can sometimes give the wrong impression of not being serious about business. So we brought on a branding logo specialist, and this is a new design that came out. So this is the Allegheny Highlands Economic Development Corporation new logo. I have to say, looking at hundreds of these a year, this is a great logo. The colors are great. It looks modern. It looks sleek. It can be transferred easily. It's just as good in black and white as it is in color. And this is what we use from now on websites, letterhead, mailers, anything like that. So this is the new logo that was developed as a recommendation of that plan. The website, a massive overhaul of the website was done for the Allegheny Highlands. This is the cover page. It's an updated modern appearance. It's got easy access to all those things that companies and site selectors are looking for. It's updated data, all the socioeconomic data, all the building data, everything has been updated in this. Perhaps the most important piece, I always talk about the fact that when companies or site selectors go in to look for a site where they want to locate. They may come in at the local level, they may come in at the state level, but they're going to have an entry point somewhere that's going to lead back to Allegheny Highlands. That data needs to be the same no matter where they are, because there's nothing like finding it through the state, but then realizing it's different material once it gets down to the local level. So I think the most important thing that came out of this is the Allegheny Highland website is now connected directly to the state database. So there's only one place that available sites and buildings need to be kept. And all that information can be turned into the state, it's kept in their database. When you go onto the new website, you can go to the page that you see right there, and you can go in and filter out sites. You can go in and say, I need 100 acres, I need this, I need that, these are my requirements. It will filter out those sites that match those needs. And that is pulled directly from the same system that the state is using and the regional group is using. So that's an added benefit that was not there before. Everything in the past had to be manually updated, and that never happens as quickly as it should. Now you don't have to worry about it. Updated business and contact information has all been improved, and the way the website was built by a firm that is very experienced in economic development specific websites has really designed it in a way that optimizes it for searching on the internet. So when people are searching for buildings, when they're searching for locations, those things in Allegheny Highlands that match what they're looking for will come up more efficiently. I'm going to turn it over to Brian now because a lot of work was done on sites. I'll let him talk.
I'm Brian Sahaki with the Timmons Group. So this is just a quick snapshot, and this is really only capturing about the last 4 months since we've transitioned from the business plan into the pad site grading work. And you can see we've already accomplished a lot in 4 months. We've got the compiled boundary plat, phase 1 environmental, we've done the endangered species review, wetlands delineations, and the geotechnical exploration. And in addition to what you see on the screen, I would estimate about 60% of the way through the process for the grading plan. We've gotten through the first review cycle, and we're working on addressing the comments. So in 4 months, that's a pretty substantial portfolio that we've already accomplished as we're charging forward with this pad site work and development. Back to you.
So I just wanted to put this up. This is a snapshot. This is considerations for projects that are brought in by the state. There are additional projects brought in at the regional level, local level, and by site selectors such as me. I know that 2 came across my desk that came in, but wanting to keep data consistent, I stuck with the state data. So this is state data, and there are more. My legend dropped off there, but I'll explain what this is. So when we started in November, I did a snapshot of what to date was fiscal year 2021 for VDP, which was June through October. That's what you see in blue. So those are buildings and sites in Allegheny Highlands that were basically recommended for projects during those 6 months. At the end of our year, I went back and did another poll to see what had happened in the year from November when we started till October of this year. That's what you see in the orange. Now, one thing, you see a drastic difference. There is an improvement, not as drastic as you see because we're looking at 6 months in blue and a year in orange. But what that shows is that there is already improvement in less than really a year of the plan being complete. And I'd like to point out, being a site selector, there was not a lot of activity during COVID. And so those orange lines are from June, or those orange lines are from last November to this November through the peak of COVID during last winter, last spring, last fall. So the fact that things actually improved it's wonderful news. And I think that and this is without the new website, without the branding, without the marketing, because those have all just come online in the last month. So I think we're going to see even better results next year when we do the year in review. Wanted to talk about next steps.
Go back one, please. Could you just, since you made the slide and it got compressed at the bottom, could you just kind of highlight the sites that are
Yes.
making it to VEDP's attention?
Yeah, so the site's in here. The first one is the Allegheny Regional.
Commerce Center.
I don't know if we can.
I've got a print copy. So
Do you
the
have a print
first
copy?
one-
Because they're blending together, and I
Yeah,
do
the
not know
first
that
one
first one.
is the Allegheny Regional Commerce Center. The second one is the Bacova Building, then there's Low Moor, Rail Over River, and then the Williams Building. And so that's quite a big increase for, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, which is the state economic development agency, of what they're actually getting provided to them, and what's advancing is at least being reviewed as a potential site from where we were a year ago.
In the next slide, I'm going to hop into next steps, but just to recap, I think it's fantastic. I'm a planner by education, and there's always a joke about implementing a plan. And that joke shows a guy standing on a step ladder with a plan, putting it on the top shelf, and it says implementing the plan. That's not the case here. When you think about the fact that this plan had a kickoff meeting last November, was really formally adopted probably February, March, and in that time frame, there's an impressive new website, a massive portfolio of photography, a new logo, all the site work that's been done, and a marketing campaign underway. That's wonderful news for a plan that's less than a year old. So it's a very aggressive implementation of the plan. Having said that, we're going into next steps. The integration of new branding and the Allegheny Highland marketing initiatives. So taking that logo and make sure that everything's new, refreshed, new letterhead, new marketing materials. Implementation of the comprehensive marketing campaign. That is joined with the ongoing social media marketing campaign. The recommendations are coming out now based on everything that's been pulled together is how are we going to get the word out? How do we get the word out about the sites being improved? The new website's now available. It's less than a month old. How do we get that out to everyone? How do we get social media, a routine with social media and staying in front of people on sites like LinkedIn? I follow that a lot as a site selector, so that's an important one. But the next steps are, how do we get the word out about everything that's happened in the last year? Outreach to site selectors. You have to find the decision makers, those people who recommend sites, those people who would recommend the Allegheny Highlands. We will do a program for direct outreach to them and on-site visits organized for VDP industrial site selection groups. You don't want to just send people things and hopes that they'll read it. You want to bring them here and let them experience it. So the recommendations were for a couple of site visits a year to bring site selectors in. The big companies like Jones Lang LaSalle, who handle site selection for major companies all around the world, all the way to the Huntons like me that work with manufacturers, distributors. Let them come experience it themselves. Same with VDP. A lot of the sites, as we've already shown, a lot of the site selectors come through the Virginia Partnership, and they make the recommendations to the company about where they might want to look. So you want to stay up front and get their attention and stay in front of them. So when something comes along, it's in their mind that Allegheny Highlands should be in that. So I know that Crystal's already in talks with the VDP to have them come out after the holidays and do a tour of the area, and that's already getting on the books as we speak.
This is now looking at the next steps with the pad grading plan process. So right now we've gotten through the first round of reviews, we're addressing comments, and we're working towards getting that plan resubmitted. And shortly thereafter, once we resubmit, we're going to also put the plan out to bid so that we can kind of process both tracks simultaneously as we get through the second review process, and we also go out to contractors to get those formal bids back. So that those two elements kind of come together in February, and we work towards approvals and selection of contractors towards an April start of construction. So some of the things we're working on right now, like I said, addressing the comments. We're doing another round of internal QC review. We're working on environmental permits. We're working on easement plating and the bid documents. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes right now. And this is just I know you can't really read the schedule in the background. That's just our updated monthly schedule that we circulate with the memo. I just pulled out a few key dates there. Like I said, in January we're targeting the resubmission of the plan, and then project bidding from January through February and into April, start of construction. And with that, if you have any questions for either of us, we're happy to answer them.
There's work that's got to happen before you can start the grade work.
Correct. Are you referring to the tree removal?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's our first target for the bidding process. So we've got a meeting set with the IDA on January 10th. So we're going to be prepared for that meeting to present the bid documents for approval and then circulate those publicly thereafter. Give them about 2 weeks for the tree clearing work to bid that and get us, or price that and get bids back. And it'll be about 30 days for the full grading bidding to come back. So we're giving them about 2 months to get the trees down before April 1st.
Have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more.
Do you have more questions?
No, one more slide.
Go ahead.
This follow-up presentation is just to talk a little bit about why what's being done is so important. Really tacks on to what Brian was talking about. As a site selector, I know that having a prepared site is important. Speed to market, I always said, time is money and time makes a decision. So having sites and buildings ready to go is a big advantage. And though it's some upfront investment, the payoff on the backside is worth it. So if you, sorry, it moved faster than I thought. It moved faster than I thought. So this is just an example. We know that when a business comes in, they may make some announcements about what they're going to invest and how many jobs are going to be created. But that's just part of the story. And what this slide shows, this is the full impact of a project and some examples. This analysis is done through a software called JobsEQ, which is used across the industry to try to predict the benefits of a project. So what we did is we took 2 actual projects that occurred in Virginia during 2021 that would be projects likely to choose a spot like the pad site that's being worked on. They would fit, and the industry would fit into this community. What I want to show you here is, take for example, the automotive part manufacturer. It's 120 new jobs, $39 million in investment. That's the new building and new equipment. Take that $39 million and set it aside, because that will be taxable. That will create ongoing revenue for the locality, for the region. The numbers I'm going to show you do not relate to that tax revenue from the actual buildings and equipment. It's additional funding coming in because of the activity created by the project itself. So you take the first one. This is a true project. It's an automotive parts manufacturer. Announced 120 new jobs and 39 million in new investment. So we see here the direct. There are the 120 jobs. That's what they're going to hire. Hiring those 120 jobs, in addition to the capital investment, will create about $45 million worth of financial impact for the region. And this is just looking at the region. We narrowed it in and did not use statewide numbers. We just looked at Allegheny, Highlands. So that impact is equipment they purchase in the area, supplies they purchase, day-to-day activities, services that they pick up on for their manufacturing. That's the 120 jobs. Those 120 jobs in that industry are projected to create an indirect additional 67 jobs. Those indirect jobs are in the areas of things like supply chain, servicing the actual manufacturer, fixing the equipment, janitorial services, food services, maintenance, upkeep, grounds, everything else. Those jobs come in because these jobs came in. So that's an additional 67 jobs. Induced jobs, another 47. Those are jobs in the community that are likely to increase because of the activity. Things like restaurants, doctors' offices, lawyers, hotels. Those are induced jobs in the community because you brought the other 187 jobs in related directly to the plan itself. Those are induced. And that brings another $7 million worth of revenue and financial impact into the community. You think about it, paying for hotel rooms, paying for food, paying for gas. Those are the induced jobs and investment. Another likely scenario, this one's great too. Both of these were in rural counties in Virginia, so they're comparable to what we're looking at here. This distribution center actually went into a 500,000, just below 500,000 square foot building, which is an end game size. Directly, 577 jobs and $51 million come out of that investment, in addition to the $72 million in new investment that's taxable. So these 577 new jobs will financially impact this region with an additional $51 million. Indirect jobs, again, supply chain, services, it's an additional 56 jobs and 12 million. So those people who are being paid to fix machines or take care of the property or do janitorial services creates another $12 million worth of financial impact. And then finally, 88 jobs are induced. Again, hotels, restaurants, doctors, grocery stores, everything else. So you can see that 577 jobs is not just 577 jobs. It's an additional, I can't do math in my head, an additional 140 jobs on top of that. One thing I want to point out, because when I gave this the other day, there's a question, and it's a very good question, is why in this one, with 120 jobs, is the indirect 67, whereas here's 577, but it's only 56? Why does the bigger job creator have less indirect jobs? That's because this model is very fine-tuned. It knows that this is a distribution project, this is manufacturing. So there are more indirect jobs related to fixing machinery, servicing machinery, and doing things like that than there would be for distribution, which can be more manual, less service-oriented for needs. However, look at the big difference in induced over here. That's because those induced jobs reflect distribution operations. Truck driver comes in, spends the night in a hotel because he's waiting for the truck to be loaded, eats out while the truck's being loaded. This has more downtime for people coming in and waiting for something to happen and then going back out, getting in their truck and leaving. So therefore, you induce more jobs. But the main point we want to say here is this is only part of the story. This is ongoing, but this is annual. So those financial impacts are annual impacts to the community. So I wanted to show that just so you know, when all this work's being done to prepare for projects, this is what we're trying to prepare for.
Any questions? It's good information to have, especially with the investment we're making as a region.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much.
Y'all have a happy and safe holiday.
Thank you.